Dr. Hepworth, Elise, showing the students that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, this is gonna work, and we're gonna get to the end of this. How might a student or a professor create that sort of opportunity?
Well, part of my asynchronous opportunity for the students is that we are creating kind of an online Google Drive or whatever you want to upload it to your LMS, whatever platform you have, whether it is Canvas or Blackboard, Sakai, Moodle, and having those students be able to upload songs, poems, their own compositions, performances, and then create some sort of a digital scrapbook that we will then have at a family reunion. And I realize that there are a lot of students that live all over the world and all over the country, so you'd have to be mindful of when you were to schedule this, but probably before my student teachers leave, or at the beginning of the school year, kind of right before the school year starts, to have a family reunion where we get together, we share this kind of digital scrapbook, we sing, we continue to sing. We realize that although we are separated physically, we are not separated at all, and that we have a time to process, because I find that this truncated semester has left a lot of individuals without closure, and they're grieving. And I feel like this opportunity of a family reunion, of getting together and celebrate a chance to have some closure, to tie a nice ribbon around it, and to come together as one family again. I have one young lady that's leaving, and she's moving to Idaho, and we're in, north of Kansas City, and she's just devastated. And she says, "I'm never going to sing under your direction again. I'm never going to sing with my group." And I said, "Do not worry. We will plan this so that you can come, so that you are going to be a part of this, because it's so important, these huge milestones for our students."
Kathy, I know that you work in Lewis and Clark with a lot of singers who partake in the university environment and aren't students. They're community members. I know here at Arizona, we've got several ensembles that pull people together from outside our walls. This loss of cycles, how have you seen it affect your non-students?
It's been interesting. When we had our first Zoom call for my community chorale, which is town and gown undergraduates and grown-ups, we had there was this amazing outpouring of gratitude just for continuing to have that be part of someone's weekly rhythm. For so many people, this is what you do on Tuesday night. You have this opportunity to connect with your choir and to have this musical outlet. And these are for people who have every different type of career, or they're retired, and they love coming together with the undergrads, and the undergrads love them. They're like adoptive parents and grandparents and everything. So it's been this beautiful community that's sort of cross-generational. And so this idea of cycles, there's kind of your weekly cycle as well. And again, I have international students. I saw someone in the chat asking about sort of how does this work for international students. Some of my international students actually have not even been able to go home yet because of their visa requirements, and also the financial burden of, spur of the moment buying a plane ticket they didn't count on having to buy. So some of them are actually still on campus and, in isolation in a dorm room. Some of them are in other time zones and everything too. So having something that does kind of provide this sense of normalcy has been something that there's this tremendous gratitude for. And those of you who've already had Zoom calls, I'm sure you have seen that feeling of sort of, oh, it's you, it's my people. And even people who couldn't do it, who tuned in afterwards and then who emailed me with their thoughts afterwards, they were like, it made me so happy to see all those little faces. And, it's still is something that's very meaningful to choose to be part of a choir, whether that's from a student perspective or an adult perspective. And so I think, we can, even if it's not looking the same, like there's a way that just acknowledging that this is a community that has value and that's part of everyone's weekly rhythm and annual rhythm, and just kind of narrating that in a meta kind of way, I think is really, really helpful. Also, I'm going rogue for just a second. One of the things that Mike and Elise were talking about that made me start thinking too is the freshmen. Our seniors, of course, were devastated because this was not the way they imagined their college time with their absolutely beloved chosen people coming to a close. And so we're definitely sort of proactively brainstorming about how we can honor the seniors and do the traditions that we would have done. But also the freshmen haven't been through a full cycle yet. And so I think part of what is kind of helpful is to kind of narrate the ghost year a little bit as you go through, like, you know what, if this in a non-pandemic year, this is what we'd still be doing right now. And seniors, like, tell the freshmen about this thing and what's this like, and oh my gosh, you won't believe. Anyway, just it kind of helps people feel like they're still part of that kind of rhythm of the academic year in a way that I think has some meaning, and we want to indoctrinate the young ones. Mwahaha.
Thank you, Kathy. You know, I'm gonna, the hour's flying by, we're already at 20 of. I'm gonna just segue us into the topic now of some asynchronous activities. The things we've talked about so far are largely things we do together in time. But as we shift our mindset, I'm realizing I've assumed this is all about people who are gonna be done with school in May. May 1st, you know, classes are ending and that's that, and the problem is solved. By September, we're all back to it. But then I think, you know, there are a lot of people with summer terms. A lot of people are not just trying to maintain community, but start community. So I don't know if any of you have any thoughts about this. I don't know that any of us are facing this, but be mindful, of course, that there are some folks out there, some friends of ours here. I'm thinking of Ann Lyman, I know, up in the Northwest. And Ann is going to be thinking about starting classes in this environment. And of course, then too, it could be that this situation persists. The University of Arizona president has mentioned this as a possibility and something we might want to consider. So some food for thought out there. If anyone wants to add the panel really quickly now or in the chat rooms, by all means, go for it. But this is an interesting topic. Anybody about this starting from within virtual, real quick? All right, and then, yeah, please, Marie.
No, I was just thinking about ideas because I mean, I was just thinking about, but it wasn't an asynchronous thought process because, you know, I don't know, some people believe in choir retreats, some people don't. I am a choir retreat person, and choir retreats are always weird and awkward because, you know, we're choir geeks and we're all weird and awkward at first. But when you know, even for introverts, I mean, this creates a safe space. So you could still have a choir retreat on Zoom. I mean, you're not retreating anywhere, so you should probably not call it a retreat. But if you're starting off, you're meeting people new, choir retreats being an opportunity to gain community, you could still do that here. And for people who are introverts, I think you might skip that awkwardness from the beginning because you don't feel awkward about going up to somebody. You know, I was talking to my husband about this meme, and he's an introvert and I'm an extrovert, and he's fine, like, throughout this whole thing, and I'm just going bananas. So I think that you could still, as long as you could curate activities that made people talk and allowed everyone the equal amount of talking. And you could even do like a scavenger hunt. Okay, you have 60 seconds in your house, go find a toothbrush, a glove, and then see who could be the first person to bring back things. Anything that could be translated onto online, but allow someone to have the comfort of their own space, as well as being able to move on to knowing somebody else. I don't know.
You know, great. Off the cuff, yeah. I was thinking about a choir retreat here at the university where we have 9 different choirs that are vastly different choral communities that maybe could happen simultaneously. Capacity is not such an issue with Zoom. All right. Well, one other kind of thing that's been left at the wayside, and for many of us, we're stranded in dorms or stranded online, but our family's nearby. This is ostensibly home. What if you're South Korean? What if you're Estonian, and you know, you've lost your school community and you've lost your home, and so you're stuck in a dorm. I know here we've got about 87% of the dorm capacity empty. They're consolidating students into dorms, and it's really disturbing. So I don't know if folks out there in chat land or anybody on the committee of the panel has particular thoughts about how we might address the needs of our international students. Maybe just one quick thought, anybody? All right, I'm going to toss that one out to the chat rooms. Unless, Elisa.
Well, Miguel, I think that it just has to be intentional. I mean, everything we have to do has to have a purpose. We can't throw anything out there and just hope that they latch on, but we really need to pay extra special attention to those students who are not at home and who are scared. And this is a very scary time. I can't imagine being between 18 and 22 and not being home with my family and being in a, you know, I was an international student once. Crises, it's not a good place to be when you're tens of thousands of miles away from home. So
Absolutely.
I think that those it has to be intentional. It has to be frequent.
And
Lots of phone calls.
let's not forget, you're not going to cross paths in the hallway and say, hey, did you get my note? That's going to have to all be intentional. How many of you experience that sense when you turn off the computer, the Zoom, you are shockingly alone in that room all by yourself. Your community just disappears. And don't forget that your community might, for many of us, also include colleagues, the staff that we see every day that help make our lives work. There's a lot of layers to these communities, and let's continue to focus on the students, but don't forget yourself. Don't forget how you lived within the community of your college or university and how that's changed.